having a full-blown meltdown of Tucker Carlson wanting to interview the president of Iran. But it's not only just the media, but it's also people in the MAGA sphere. And it looks like that civil war or that fight between Trump supporters, the MAGA community. I mean, look, I was on board with Tucker Carlson interviewing Vladimir Putin because guess what? George Snuffleupagus and other people have interviewed Vladimir Putin and other dictators, tyrants, kings, warlords, terrorists, criminals, sociopaths. I mean, it's fine. That's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. That's a job of, I guess, a high-profile journalist. You're supposed to interview high-profile people, and the president of Iran is a high-profile person. Now, I could say this without knowing Tucker Carlson. Pretty much, he's as pro-American as it can get. Yes, he's been critical of Israel and the war in Ukraine, but more or less, look, he's going to have his own opinions. But in regards towards having his own thoughts and beliefs within the populist Trump movement, I think it's rather refreshing. And I think he has every right to share his opinion and perspective, and he has every right to interview whoever the hell he wants. But yet, you have people who seem to be having a collective meltdown, like Laura Loomer and a few others, who are calling Tucker Carlson a traitor. No, that's his job. And that's your job, too. If you're a YouTube influencer, Instagram influencer, you're part of the right, or you're part of independent media on the right, or anything of that nature, or you have a high-profile, platform, you're supposed to interview controversial people. I mean, I don't know. That's what I do, the same thing, too, if I wasn't suppressed. But hey, here we go. We got the full video here, and I want to share it with all you lovely, beautiful people. Not the full interview, but Tucker Carlson explaining the interview that he's going to be having.
We just finished up an interview with Masoud Pezeshkian, who is the president of Iran, the 70-year-old heart surgeon who leads the country we were just at war with about a week and a half ago. We know we'll be criticized for doing this interview. Why did we do it anyway? Well, we did it because we were just at war with Iran 10 days ago and maybe again. And so our view, which has remained consistent over time, is that American citizens have the constitutional right and the God-given right to all the information they can gather about matters that affect them. If their country is doing something with their money in their name, they have a right, an absolute right, to know as much about it as they can. And that would include hearing from the people they're fighting. Now, can you believe everything you hear from the president of Iran? Probably not. But that's not the point. The point is you should be able to decide for yourself whether you believe it or not. And keep in mind that anyone who seeks to deny you that right is not your ally, but your enemy. By the way, we have also put in, for the third time in the last several months, an interview request with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and we hope he accepts that. The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by remote through a translator. That's always awkward. For another, I don't speak Persian. And there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly. I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable. So we dispense with those, and I asked him very simple questions, such as, what is your goal? Do you seek war with the United States? Do you seek war with Israel? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the purpose of this was not to get to the absolute truth. That's impossible in an interview like this. The purpose of the interview was to add to the corpus of knowledge from which Americans can derive their own opinion. Learn everything you can, and then you decide. That's the promise of America. And we hope that this interview does a small part to making that promise real. This interview will be up as soon as we have done editing it, as noted, and that should be in a day or two.
Now, he has every right to interview whoever he wants, and yet you have members in the conservative sphere. Sorry about that. Sphere. Anyways, you have members who are diehard Trump supporters who are rather upset that Tucker Carlson is going to be doing this. Well, what do you expect to do in this day and age of social media? I'm going to break it down very simply for all those watching, and I don't care where you stand politically. Let me break it down to you simple, especially in this business. You want to be the person, the top dog, to be interviewing those that will get you the most clicks and views. That's when it comes down to the bare basics of everything on social media. even not in independent media, but doing podcasts or covering any types of genres. You want some high profile people in there. And sometimes, hey, guess what? You occasionally have a very controversial person that will tune in. This isn't the first time this has happened. And yet you have the Trump community divided into camps. Because remember, this war in Iran did show a clear divide, a huge divide. And say however which way you want to feel about the long-term consequences that the United States engaged in striking, again, dangerous targets, nuclear facilities in Iran. U.S. fighter bombers flew in U.S. bomber planes and dropped U.S. munitions on these 3 different locations. Now, thank God, for the moment now, there's a ceasefire, all right? Listen, I'm going to take what I can get. Will there be peace? Probably not. Will there be another engagement down the road? Yes. Yes, there will. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but we've been lied to enough. But look, the previous president, the former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was interviewed many, many times by U.S. corporate media. Why is there a different standard around Tucker Carlson interviewing the president of Iran now? All right, so look, you have Piers Morgan, George Snuffleupagus. You got all these people here. So what Tucker Carlson is doing isn't earth-shattering, but yet you got people out there calling him a traitor. How is he causing treason? What is he doing? What is he doing? Because I'm willing to bet that a lot of these critics who are calling him out would also do something similar in that nature, interview a controversial person. And guess what? That's their right to do so because there's a thing called free speech, which is something I believe in. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe everyone has a right to free speech. Everyone has a right to assembly, all that good jazz. After all, that's what Heartlands media were known for. Free speech, free speech, free speech. So, conservative American journalist Tucker Carlson has announced that he will air an interview with Iranian President Mahmoud Pezeshkian, saying Americans deserve to hear directly from the leader of their country their military has recently fought. The interview comes on the heels of the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, as well as U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, look, you have people like Ted Cruz calling him out. You have other people being upset about this. But look, in the era of fairness, he has also requested to interview the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Controversial statement here because I believe in consistency. Tucker Carlson has a right to interview the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, I know there's a lot of people here that don't like to see that interview, but guess what? He's going to have to do it. That's his job, and he's being fair. He's interviewing the president of Iran, interviewing the Prime Minister of Israel. Fair is fair. Imagine if he didn't do that request, because then people would say he's a hypocrite then, or then they'd start doubling down saying, oh, he truly is a traitor. How so? How so? How so indeed? But I think it's important to show what this truly means, okay? Because I want to pull up this video here of Oliver Stone, calling out CBS when he wanted to interview, when Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin. Now, that interview with Putin wasn't anything new. In fact, other quote-unquote corporate journalists did the same thing. So this is a while ago, but I want to play it for all of you.
Good morning, Charlie. You had an extensive opportunity to take an evaluation of Vladimir Putin. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates once said of him, when I look at him, I see a cold-blooded killer. When you look at him after these 2 years, what do you see?
You're asking for a full understanding of somebody who I spent 20 hours filming, 20 hours of film. He reveals himself more in the film than anybody I've ever seen.
And how does
you have to make, I'd like you to be the, you know, if you think he's still a killer after you see these 20 minutes, a cold-blooded one and so forth, that's fine. You know, you draw your own conclusion.
No, I'm talking about what Robert Gates said. I'm not talking about what I said.
Do I agree with Mr. Gates?
Yeah. Well, no, what do you see? In other words, that's what Gates saw. What do you see, having spent this time with him?
A statesman who's very concerned with the Russian national interests. He's represented those same interests pretty consistently since about 17 years in power. Mm-hmm. And he's there to talk. He believes in talk. He believes in peaceful coexistence. He said, in the whole 2 years, I never heard him badmouth anybody. When you know, talking about those candidates, you know, he said very positive things about Hillary Clinton and positive things about Trump, but he displayed any names. He didn't care about who would win. In fact, if you look at the fourth hour, I think you've seen the fourth hour, he says very clearly, you know, the presidents, I've had 4 presidents, the 4 presidents change. The policies remain the same.
You sort of act as if you take what he says as fact.
Well, I mean, I'm in an interview. Why should he lie? You know, and if he is, why should he omit something? I mean,
Well, I mean, the
I
clip-
can understand if it's a state secret.
I mean, the clip you just played, unlike many partners of ours, we never interfere with the domestic affairs of other countries. I mean, that's a flat out lie.
If you say so. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not here to argue with you, but I'm not there to, you know, to make
Why do you think he granted you?
judgments on whether they hacked the election or not. It's a complicated issue.
Why do you think he granted you such extensive access? Because you interviewed him over 20 hours.
20.
Now, again, just for clarity, this is when Oliver Stone interviewed Putin and also when Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin as well. I remember the 2024 election cycle. And you know what? Yes, I remember a lot of latte drinking liberals, the vote blue no matter whose sphere, was all upset and easily triggered. They were clutching their pearls. And I do remember something else that was quite controversial. All of the MAGA people were in support of Tucker doing this. What changes? Look, there's no such thing as a perfect world leader. All right. All these leaders are the same. They're all corrupt. They all got skeletons in their closet. Ding dong, ding dong. Who gives a damn? Right. What I don't like is the tone police. What I don't like is censorship. What I don't like is suppression. What I don't like is when you have individuals who think that they can not start dictating, oh, who should be interviewed and who should not be interviewed. Well, you know what? Maybe I want to hear from the president of Iran, hear his perspective and point of view. Will he automatically pull out a magical hypnotizing device and hypnotize everyone that watches the interview to attack the West? No, that's not going to happen. That's Saturday morning cartoon logic. All right. And here, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. For about a week, that interview with the Iranian president will at least capture most of the internet's attention. And then guess what? Something else is going to capture our minds, just like what I predicted with the Putin interview, okay? Shiny keys, and then, oh, look, more shinier keys. That's how the internet works. But look, I want to pull this up here. This is a tweet from the Hodge twins. It says, pay attention to the people mad at Tucker over this. We notice they have something in common. I want to pull this up here. Now, of course, I muted this because of copyright music. But look, oh, Tucker Carlson is not America first. Tucker isn't America first. He's America's worst. He is anyone against America first. I'm starting to think Tucker Carlson isn't America first. I'm starting to think Tucker, like it's all the same. Come up with something new. Oh, look at this. It's Tucker Carlson. He's been hypnotized, folks. This is it. It's Radical Tucker. He's the new Muad'Dib. He's going to take on he's going to control the spice trade. He's going to take down the Padishah Emperor Trump. Look, Laura Loomer, I don't want to ever hear anyone say again, Tucker Carlson is America first. Guys, this is stupid. Always anti-America first for Tucker. Meanwhile, America spent the 4th of July interviewing the president of Iran. Tucker Carlson is a snake and a traitor. Oh, look at this. All of it the same. Click, copy, paste. It's almost like somebody gave everyone who is of high influence a script, just like what we see from corporate media, right? That's what it looks like to me. So what's the big scare? What is everyone so afraid of? Oh, look, Babylon B. Tucker interviews Saruman to talk about Rouhan's warmongering. That was an earth-shattering interview right there. Good thing I paused right there. I was waiting to get there. Look at that. That's Saruman. And Rouhan needs an answer. That Rohirrim charge innocent orcs were stepped on and crushed. Shame. See, this is what I've been worried about. And I again, when it comes down to the right as well, because you see people of influence on the right and on the left, liberals and conservatives, who want to stifle and control free speech. And I've always said this, like, again, you know, it's a matter of when the other side has control, then they're on board. And notice, again, Tucker Carlson's a big leading figure of high influence amongst the right and libertarians. He has every right to interview who he wants on his platform. Just like I do, just like everybody else. You know, and when Harlan's Media was starting off, like way back in the day, even we were interviewing members of the activist community, boy, oh boy, you know, What I remember, what ticks me off to this day is how me and Daniel were confronted by people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't interview this person, or you shouldn't interview that group." You know, it's like a lot of snakes, slippery snakes. And then when we interviewed libertarians, oh, why would you give them a platform? Because we're a commentary news show, and it's important. We want to interview everybody. And you know what's funny? Those same people who were telling us not to interview people, we were told by other people not to interview them. Well, we do whatever the hell we want. All right? Stand for free speech and shut up about it. There you go.